Boom, boom, boom. Welcome to Franchise Mode. I know you all liked the last episode. Thank you for liking the views. If you listen on the Spotify, the Apple Music, keep going on there. We're going to drop the full episodes on Spotify and Apple. We're going to drop each segment on YouTube in the next or coming days. Today, we're going to be getting to a little bit of football or Dallas Cowboys. I'm very excited to introduce our guest, and you all will see after the break. All right, I told you all we have a very special guest today. I have Tage from a co-host from the Take the Points podcast, really mathematician on Twitter. I mean, has all the craziest graphs, University of Michigan, rising senior. So I've been trying to get him on the podcast, and we finally brought him on Franchise Mode. So how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Thank you. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm really excited to be here and talk about the Cowboys today.
Yeah, I know this is, everyone's favorite team, so we're gonna get into that. It's like, I'm just joking. I know you're a Lions fan, so so first I want to start before we get into the segment, just how'd you even start, getting into football and especially the analytical side of football?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really started when I was like 7 or 8, and my grandpa and dad would always watch Lions games together. Mm-hmm. And so the first year that I followed the Lions was like 2008. Where they went 0-16. But it was just like fun, like watching the games like with like my dad and my grandpa. So we were just always like talking about football and like watching it. And I did that like all throughout middle school and everything. And then once I like got to my senior year of high school and got into college is really when I started to get into the analytics side of things, and like started like learning how to like code and analyze NFL data. And then it went from there, really.
Yeah, that's really cool because, coding is not easy it's not easy at all. So definitely, glad we have some people doing it, behind the scenes. So now getting into the first segment we have just thoughts on the Cowboys losses this offseason. We're going to have 3 segments today. The first is just on the losses. We can start with Amari Cooper. Any player you think the Cowboys loss is going to hurt the team going into next year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the interesting thing about Amari Cooper is he'd be a really big loss to a lot of teams that don't have what the Cowboys have. But since the Cowboys have like a top 12 quarterback in Dak Prescott, a wide receiver that's very capable of being a wide receiver 1 in CeeDee Lamb, and like good secondary receiving options with Gallup and Schultz. And then on top of that, like a good play caller with Kellen Moore. I don't think Amari Cooper will be as big of a loss to the Cowboys as if, let's say, like Washington lost Terry McLaurin or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy with Amari. I think the writing was kind of on the wall with the COVID thing. I forget what Jerry said, something like he was upset that some players didn't get vaccinated, and every Cowboy fan like, okay, yeah, he's gone. Like Jerry would do anything for the players, but anytime you go like out of his comfort zone, you're done deal. And the way his contract was, was made where you could cut him, cut or trade, and you lose. It's no dead cap room. It was we knew that was coming, but sadly, I think I'm going to miss Amari. I mean, he had his ups and downs with the Cowboys, not quote unquote showing up in some games. But overall, I think he was a wide receiver 1. He's someone that the defenses, play a lot of too high for. So usually the best corner was on him, which helps everyone else get off more, get better. So I think the Cowboys are definitely going to miss him. But like you said, at the end of the day, they did replace him with someone we'll talk to. Well, not replace him, but they added something else to the core, someone we'll talk about later. So, okay, that's the first loss. But then the Cowboys like, okay, we lost Amari Cooper. It's not that bad, Austin. It's one guy. Then the Cowboys signed Randy Gregory. And then within 4 hours, they didn't sign Randy Gregory. So how do you think that type of pass rushing loss is going to hurt this team?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a bigger loss than Amari Cooper because Randy Gregory was playing football at a pretty high level last year. And, it's not just that the Cowboys are losing Randy Gregory, but the second, the edge rusher that they're going to have opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence isn't, something really special like Gregory was. Like, if it's Dorrance Armstrong, you're going from a pass rusher in Randy Gregory who could pressure the quarterback on 15% of snaps last year to Armstrong, who was only able to pressure the quarterback on 11% of snaps. And he just isn't as high profile as a pass rusher. So I think, I'm all for Micah Parsons, like rushing the passer as much as possible. So if he's able to do that more, I think, it could be really beneficial to the Cowboys defense, but losing someone opposite Lawrence, I think is going to be pretty hard for this defense to keep the same level of pass rushing ability that they had last year.
And what do you think about Dante Fowler? I have absolutely, you know better than me probably. I have no idea what to look for that. They said him and Dan Quinn go back to even Florida together. So like in the course with Atlanta too. So it seems like they have a connection, but he seems like such a high variance player that I don't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dante Fowler, kind of took advantage of being on like a very, very stacked defense in the 2018 Jaguars, and has been kind of like riding his career since then. Like he's like a good like depth piece to have, because like they needed that at edge there, with the second like line behind DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah.
And so I think like it'll be good to have him on the roster, but you don't want him playing the majority of snaps.
Okay, and so even though the Cowboys did lose Randy Gregory, some Cowboys fans are going to say, well, he only had 6 sacks. You know that narrative that's going to go around. Can you explain to the fans why the sack number doesn't equal like actual production that he gave to the team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things that influence sacks, and the reason why I don't like using sacks as a statistic is because it's such a small sample size of plays, right? Like these pass rushers have, anywhere between 200 to 300 pass rushing snaps on an entire year. So if you're just using 6 of their plays to describe them, that's not doing a really good job. And like sacks have been shown to be fluky year to year, where there's some players that can have like 13 sacks in one season and then have like 7 or 6 in the other, just because of, they weren't getting double teamed one year and now they are getting double teamed, and different factors that can influence that. So that's why I used pressure rate to describe like Randy Gregory versus Dorrance Armstrong.
Yeah, so that was for the Cowboys fans to think that, oh, anybody can get 6 sacks. Like, yeah, but it's not just about the sacks. It's about how many times can you pressure quarterback. You're just trying to get in the quarterback's lap. The more you pressure quarterback, the more it's likely a bad throw. It's not Diggs got 11 interceptions. You'll make bad throws, especially later in games. And then I also forgot to ask you when we were on the Amari Cooper topic, it seemed like it's a lot of receivers have just been getting traded all around the league. What do you think is the reason because of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason is, just really that the cap is like actually real, and like, people point to the Rams and they're like, oh, how are they, assigning all these players and stuff. But like, if you look at the Rams roster, they have a couple stars at the top that they're paying a lot of money to, and then they've built the rest of the roster off 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks that aren't being paid anything. There's not much middle ground for them. And so like the Cowboys kind of run into this where, Dak's cap hit is hitting them, and you have Ezekiel Elliott's cap hit and DeMarcus Lawrence's, and at the end of the day, they just don't have the money to also keep Amari Cooper on the roster, just like the Titans didn't have the money to give AJ Brown an extension. The same thing with the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill, where they couldn't pay him as much as he truly wanted, and they had to sell him short there. And like all those receivers had to be traded this offseason because of that.
But do you don't think that hurts the actual value of the position? Like the war is still around the same.
Yeah, I think it's I think it is about the same. The thing is, like, when you trade a 1st round pick and like a little bit extra, plus give an extension to that wide receiver that you traded for, it's going to be a lot harder for them to make back the value that you gave up for them, because like that's a lot of resources to invest in one player. But I still think like just value wise, they'll be pretty similar. Yes.
Okay, now let's go to another big loss that the Cowboys don't necessarily a loss, but it's kind of a slow start to the season. We just have Michael Gallup's ACL tear. It's kind of like the dog in the room. No one knows what's going on. Say he's at the facility, but then you hear Jerry Jones come out, which I don't know why, but he says, yeah, I don't know if he's going to play week 1. Like, just giving the Bucs that already. So what do you think will happen if the Cowboys don't have Gallup for the first, let's say, 4 weeks? They play the Bucs and Bengals are the first 2 matchups. So how do you think that can change the season for the team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to be a big test for Dak Prescott and Kellen Moore specifically. When Amari Cooper or Michael Gallup have been on the field for Dak, he's been a really efficient quarterback. But when one of those wide receivers has been off the field due to injury or maybe like the package that they had in, he has been about an average quarterback, in efficiency metrics. So I think like if he can really show that, all right, like he has CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, and then, Jalen Tolbert or something as his receiving options when he comes out and plays two good defenses in the Buccaneers and Bengals.
Yeah.
It could be, it could be something where Dak really starts to put himself into a higher tier of quarterback conversation. And Kellen Moore does a really good job like he did last year against the Bucs, where he schemed up, a really good game plan.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of the pressure is going to fall on them in those games. And, I'm confident in them executing that early in the season.
Yeah, I've really been saying this has been the Kellen Moore head coach or bust year. Like either he'll become a head coach or it's going to be like really bad. Like I think it's going to be either or. I think he's actually going to have a pretty good season. I think Eric Eager had him as the number 2 play caller in the league. So I was like, all right. I mean, everyone's tagging me in the post. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I'm like, look, he's had a top, he did the number 1 offense at least, or a top 5 offense, by certain metrics last 2 years. So, I think he does deserve more respect than some Cowboys fans are giving him. But also with one of the final big losses that the team did have, I mean, you just have Lyle Collins going. They replaced Lyle Collins with Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele did not play as good as Lyle Collins last year. Now he did play, I'd say, average, but if you're guessing on improvement, how much of a loss do you think Lyle Collins will be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Lyle Collins was like instrumental to that like awesome 2016 offense and everything. But, his play has diminished, in recent years. So I think like an offensive line is really a weak link system where defenses can choose to attack the weakest offensive lineman. So I think Terrence Steele being an average tackle is going to be fine for the Cowboys, because as long as they're average to above average across the board, there's nowhere that the defenses can really attack them. So, I'm interested to see, how those new pieces kind of work out for them, but I think they should be fine for the most part.